everyone, I'm Elaine Chow.
And I'm Trist Curless.
And welcome to The Musician's Loop.
Loop, like a drum loop?
No, like the kind of thing that a jeweler uses to evaluate gems.
Oh, like a magnifying glass, like what we'll do on this podcast, actively listening to music like a musician.
That's right. And every week, we are choosing a track to dive into together and share our thoughts about what we find intriguing about the song.
Whether it's songwriting, chord progression, instrumentation, recording technology, arrangement, whatever, we're looking at the music we love through the lens, or the loop, of decades in the music industry.
Hey Trist, what do we have this week?
This week, Elaine, we have the singer-songwriter John Mayer.
Ooh, contemporary.
Yeah, prolific songwriter, written a lot of songs that our listeners might know, but maybe you don't know this one. Wasn't a single, wasn't a hit of any kind that I can think of, although it's very catchy. So none of the ones you know. It's off of a more recent album. I believe this album is 2017-ish.
Okay.
The album, The Search for Everything. The song is Never on the Day You Leave.
Interesting. Okay. So is there anything that you want to say about the song before we go into it, or should we just listen to it flat?
You know, let's just listen to it. There's nothing else to tell about it. It tells the tale itself.
Okay, sounds good. Before we get into this, and we will put the links into the show notes, Trist, can you remind us a little bit about how we should be listening to music?
Absolutely. As I always say, we're happy to have listeners no matter where or how you listen to us. So thank you for joining us. But if you do have the opportunity to make your listening environment better by going to a quieter place, grabbing the nicer headphones, going to your good speakers, going into your nicer car, whatever it is, wherever the best sound is. Again, we're glad to have you regardless, but just a reminder, improve your environment of listening if you can. Thanks.
Awesome. So we're going to take a really quick break, and we will be right back. And we're back. Oh man, I'm very curious why you chose this song. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, as you know, if you've listened all the way through all of ours, thank you. If not, why not? Go back and listen to some others. We had the Jim Croce song, which I just kind of call a story song. Kind of a storyteller song. I really liked the makeup of it. It's very sing-songy without seeming too trite to me. Very catchy. Sometimes it's not any deeper than that. I really like these lyrics. I really like the story. I like the melody. That's why.
Yeah, let's go into that a little bit when we're talking about the story, because the Jim Croce song was very much a descriptive song, right? It was like what had happened from the outside. And this is more from the inside, right? We're brought along with the narrator's journey, his internal journey through this experience. Can you talk a little bit about that? I definitely took notes. So
it's interesting because I heard this song first right when it came out. I like his writing and his recording. So usually when his albums come out, not always, but usually I try to listen to them sometime after they come out. And this one in particular, I kind of gave a listen, and there's a couple things that like maybe a single that I'd heard somewhere. So I thought, oh, this will be cool. This one caught me by surprise. This is one of those, the first listen, the first time through it, it became my favorite song on the album. And as I recommend it to people or talk about it, I only think of this song. I barely can think of other songs that are on the album. I guess it just really stuck with me. The thing is, the more I've listened to it, I've seen different perspectives of it. I think the first time I heard it as, in the way the form is, it's just kind of like A, B, A, B, A, B. It just goes back and forth between two different sections. And then at the end, the very last thing is like a C. It's like, oh, this is different material, which fits with the content. So, you know, talking about here's this relationship that is deteriorating and there's all these things that are going wrong. And at the end, my first listen, I heard, because as you're living it with them, it's like, oh man, this is going downhill. This is all bad. And then you hear, but I don't want any of that to happen. So I'm going to do this and I'm going to change the outcome. So my first time listening to it, it felt active, like, hey, these things can happen, so I'm going to do something to change the outcome. And this time when I listened to it, preparing to talk about it, I heard someone who's had to have this experience and is telling someone else. Of course, I'm such an optimist. The first time I heard it, like, oh, that's really great. He didn't have the heartbreak. He thwarted his problems. He figured it out. But then on this listen, I kind of realized, oh, wait a minute. He doesn't know all of those things unless he's lived it. So this time I heard it, I'm not sure I could hear it different ways and different people could, but this time I heard it like, oh, hey, I've had all of this happen to me. So here's your lesson to be learned. A cautionary tale. Thwart this before it happens to you too, is kind of how I heard it this next time. And in a month, I might hear it differently.
Well, I think I agree with you in that the outro is really the turnaround. And I just labeled it as outro because it's so different than the rest of the song. Mm-hmm. And as he is talking about, he's made this decision, he's going to leave her a note and say, even though we're imperfect, I'm never going to leave. And that is where the song ends, right? Where the narrator is definitely, he's made a decision. Now, the way that I read the verse, chorus, right? Because there are three of them, is there's this feeling of running things through to the end. And then there's a wisdom that he accesses through previous experience saying, after you've broken up with someone, after you've gone through this experience, you don't know the full ramification of you choosing to do this. And there are some things that he calls out in terms of the regret that he has in breaking up with previous people, perhaps, right? And just saying, like, you're never going to know, that you're not going to remember this argument that you have. And as I was reading through this, a couple of phrases stuck out to me. First of all, in the first verse, he's talking about, you can't remember why you said goodbye. And that to me was, oh, this is a voice of experience, right? This is someone who has gone through it a couple of times and realized, oh, I can't even remember why I broke up with that person. And a couple of other things that came to mind was, man, there's this incredible lyric of, to watch a girl become a ghost before your eyes. That to me was like, oh, that was a killer lyric for me, because this is really strong metaphor about being a ghost. Like this is someone who literally is haunting you. And I'm like, this is awesome. This is so
And also
good.
Because it's a newer song, like that lyric is great if it was written in 1965. But the concept that we have in modern day relationships about ghosting. Oh yeah, he ghosted me. So it may or may not have come into his mind because of that. Who knows?
I doubt it. Yeah.
but that's what that is. And I read that as that, like that's something that hits a little bit more currently, again, than if it were written, 30 years ago. Just a side note about that. That's a cool line, though.
I didn't read it that way. It was more of, how in movies you're seeing things in color and then like it slowly fades into black and white or vice versa, where it's like black and white and slowly fades into color. There's that sense of like disappearing, right? Where it's like, oh, here's someone who effectively becomes transparent. Like she disappears right in front of his eyes. So yeah, it was just interesting to me. And then there's this very descriptive scene about Christmas where it's very poignant. He's like, so you don't realize until the fact that you're sitting here alone with this drugstore Christmas tree, which, by the way, I think it's totally fine, right? But he's feeling like, oh man, like I'm missing her crazy family. I'm missing Christmas Eve. I'm missing all of these things. And so there's a sense of, I don't even know if it's nostalgia, but really the sense of deep, deep regret. And so by the time he makes his turn into this is what I'm going to do, he's kind of thinking about all these experiences that he's had in the past, saying, oh, if I make this choice to break up with her over this particular thing, I'm going to experience these feelings again. And it's never at the moment where you break up that you think about these things. And so in some ways, he has extrapolated the experience that he will have in the future and realizing that's not the future that he wants. And therefore he changes his mind. That's what I took out of reading the lyrics and thinking about, oh, okay, where is this person? What is he trying to describe right now? And I just thought it was incredibly masterful, just kind of where he ended up. The turn at the very end, I think, is what really makes the song. Because if it had just been like the verse chorus, it's like, oh yeah, there are some really nice lyrics in there. That's cool, But the turn of it, we go with him because he has
Yep.
set it up in a position where we are just following and following, following, and then he turns.
Yep. Going back to why I chose that one, I think that's the crux of it. That last stanza and how musically it fits, because the content is different. The content gives a turn. It's all the reminiscing, all these things. You'll remember all this stuff, but never on the day you leave. On the day you leave because all this stuff and you have all this evidence and all these things and then you leave and then you have these remembrances. And that's a pretty good song, even before the outro. If it just fades into oblivion and we don't get the outro, pretty solid song. Really nice, melodic, cool little changes, sing-songy, memorable, etc. Not a bad song, but man, to me, the outro makes it an A+ because it gives so much more. And again, different interpretations. And I love that the content changes, and so musically it follows. And if I can extrapolate more on that, this song doesn't have a lot happening musically. The last episode, thank you listeners if you've listened to the last episode, about the Michael Jackson tune, funky, rhythmic. We talked about how I sometimes even think about what the lyrics are. That song isn't necessarily about that. He's a very musical guy, lots of producers, knows lots of great musicians. You could do a lot of stuff behind this lyrics, behind these melodies, but what's important is this story, and the lyrics are super important in this song. So it's very purposely kind of plain. It's just very unobtrusive. I can't even remember everything that's there. There maybe it's some real strings, maybe it's a keyboard pad, some guitar, but there's a band, but it's like the focus is this. That's where someone might say, oh, hey, what if we put this here? And the producer has to go, yeah, that's just going to get in the way. We need the lyrics to shine here. So I love how musically everything supports this, even down to finally when the perspective of the song changes. That's the first time we get like new chords and a new little bit of a structure right at the end. I like that.
Yeah, we actually had a new little structure. There was a little interlude between the second chorus and the third verse that was a little bit different, but you're right in that it really makes a left turn at the outro, and not a complete left turn. It still sounds natural to move in here, but it does shift gears a little bit.
It gets your attention.
It definitely does. Now, one thing that I did note as I was listening to this was the instrumentation. And one thing that I thought was interesting was how the different instruments came together to create the sense of intimacy. Because I think that's what you were going for when you were just talking about how the instruments pulled way back. It was a very acoustic set. And even though I knew that there were some electric instruments in there, there was a little section where there was an electric guitar, but even the electric guitar didn't have a whole lot of effects on it. Same thing with the bass. I was trying to figure out, is this an electric bass? Is this an upright? It sounded like an electric bass because of the tone, but that also was a very clean signal. So I'm thinking this is a very intimate set. It sounds very acoustic, which I think was pretty much what this album sounded like versus some of the more, I'd say, pop rock kind of style that he had in previous albums. But yeah, I just thought that it was instrumented in a way that encouraged that level of tenderness and hurt that he was trying to get across in this particular song. And I'm kind of curious because I heard and I wrote down that it sounded a little country. I don't know if you got
100%.
that.
That was also right after I heard it. I said, oh, I wouldn't be surprised if it was one of those that just almost wrote itself. Once you have that concept, the story just kind of like, oh, this song is almost done now. Like it just lays itself out. You just have to fill in the details. It feels like one of the, being not a prolific songwriter, but I have songs that are like that. Like once I think of the idea, it just kind of all falls out. I don't have to work day after day to think of new things. It just kind of like, oh, yep, this is the idea. Boom, song. I haven't done enough research on it, but I wouldn't be surprised if that is kind of what happened with him here. And he's making an album, so great, put it on there. But man, he'd be well served to have given this to a country artist, I think. I could hear still the same basic stuff. You just do the exact same song, but put a bolo tie on it. You know what I mean? Instead of that clean, regular guitar that he plays. One little slide guitar, another voice that has just a little more twang in it, just to lead you there, because the content and the kind of story that it is, it's the kind of form and stories that are told in country music a lot.
Oh, it's interesting. So you're thinking that it sounds country because of the structure.
just the kind of song it is. It's just the kind of telling those stories like, well, son.
Well, it's interesting because I thought it was more the instrumentation than the structure of the song, because as I was listening to the instrumentation, again, I didn't hear any slide, so it wasn't like a full country, but it had, and I don't know whether it was the specific instrumentation, but it made me think of a particular venue that I'm familiar with that has now like moved, but it was at the time really wood beams, very casual, a lot of more casual seating. It just felt like you were performing inside of a barn. There were a lot of rugs that were out there on the stage itself. And so it was one of those things that it felt really intimate, really pared back, and also felt really homey, right?
Yeah, maybe the characteristic also of country music is that because the storytelling in this kind of a song is what's important. So the production of a lot of those kinds of songs do exactly what this does. It's very background. It's very basic. So maybe subliminally that lack of flash in the back made me think country also, even though it wasn't at the fore of my thought. I was just like, oh, it is the kind of song like I could hear right away. And often songs like this, country artists will just pick up. I've heard songs from Sting get re-recorded by country artists because it's the same way. It's like a good storyteller. His original might not have been twangy, but this other voice might do it. So I wouldn't be surprised, but someone should jump on that and then give us credit. But it'd be a really great country artist track, I think.
Yeah, it definitely led me to the thought of what defines country, what defines that style, and why do I have such a very deep cognitive connection between what I heard and what I saw mentally in my head, both in like, oh, I don't know if there was a music video, but this is what I would see in a music video, right? There was something that was it triggered something very deep inside of me that thought, oh, this is country, but like old country, like 1950s country. It was something that was very reminiscent. I can't really put my finger on it, but I just thought I would bring it up.
Yep. I think like we've just covered, the basic storytelling, it's not super layered. It's not like, oh, what does he mean by that? It's like, well, no, it's very out front, cautionary tale, etc. So songs for the people, as it were. And then the very basic, just supporting musical background that isn't exceptional really in any way because it's just there to support the storytelling.
Well, any last thoughts before we wrap up?
That's it. Sometimes I choose songs here, not because there's a lot to talk about. It's just that I want people to hear these songs that maybe they didn't get to. There's a bunch of great John Mayer songs that a lot of people have already heard. So sometimes it's fun to pick those apart here, but with the two of us. But sometimes I like to pick songs that's almost just like, hey, wanted everyone to know that this exists and that we like it.
100%. So with that, let's wrap up and shift into our next segment, which is
Mailbag.
The mailbag.
That's right.
Well, this week also comes from Threads. This is from Eric Alper, who is a freelance music publicist. He's really well known in Canada and has managed some really big people. This one comes from November 2025, and he writes, local music scenes are built by the 50 people who show up every time. Be one of those 50. Every legendary artist started in a half-empty room with believers like you. So, so one of the things that I wanted to talk about was local music scenes and how they are important to, up-and-coming musicians or even working musicians. I'm kind of curious what you think about that and the importance of showing up for local artists.
Oh, wow. I mean, it's always been important, but I think it's more important than ever to, physically show up for artists that you want to support. That is support. Even if it's just a small venue and it was only $10-15 to get in, that 50 people shows the artist that there's somebody there for them and shows the person booking the venue that somebody is there for them. Booking the show, you can show a venue, a booker that you've got whatever numbers you have on whatever social media platform you got, but those can be from anywhere. And so when they book you because you have said numbers and then there's 5 people at your show, well, that doesn't help you. I guess for this conversation is just to do what you can to support when you do like an artist and maybe they don't come to your town and maybe you can't get to them. And so in a previous episode, we talked about buying merch. That's one way you can do that, just showing support. Just like so many of these topics, yeah, maybe you won't necessarily make the difference, but the collective you will make a difference. So everybody that's like you, if everybody that's really into an artist just thinks, oh, I hope I get some more music from them someday while I keep just streaming the same few songs that pays whatever little bit that it pays. That's support, I guess, to some degree. But if you don't talk to other people about it, if you don't buy their merch, if you don't attend a concert that you can't attend, then you're not really supporting them. You're just enjoying them.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about because on the one hand, there is supporting the artists that you already love. And the thing that I really latch onto here is the phrase local music scene. And really what it comes down to is discovery. Like, how do you discover new acts and how do you get engaged with new acts? And so part of it is showing up to just random events, right, at your local music venue, and maybe going to attend something or going to listen to something that you might not really like or might not actually know a whole lot about. And I'm kind of curious about how you would approach that in trying to discover new music or trying to figure it out. Is it one of those things where people need to have their music out already so that people who might be interested can evaluate before they attend? Or is it one of those things where we should just, as music lovers, make a commitment to go to one new show every year or to check out an artist that they might not have checked out otherwise?
Yeah, I think either of those ways work. I think another way around it, maybe you have a group of friends or a friend or a little friend group that, you know what, we like this venue. We like the bar at this venue. We like the food at this venue. We like the atmosphere. If you're lucky enough to find a place like that, me and my friends like hanging out at this place no matter what the music is. Some nights there might not even be music at that place. We have a place we like. And then some nights you go and there is music there. You didn't go there for it necessarily. Now the slippery slope is now that there is music there, and even though you didn't come there for it, be respectful to them, and maybe hopefully they'll gain your attention and you can find out you like this artist that you'd never heard of, rather than what are these people doing annoying me at my favorite venue to go out and drink at. That's not quite what we're talking about. But find a music venue, place that has music frequently where you might not know. Or maybe you find it because you went and saw an artist you liked. Most of those venues, someone will introduce an act. Hey, glad to finally have them here. By the way, next week we have this show that's kind of like this. And then next month we have this, they're always promoting their stuff or handing out flyers, or you'll see posters as you get into the venue. And, really do check that out. Like if they're promoting them during a show, oftentimes it's because they're similar. So at least then, hey, this was a fun night. Look, in 1 month, there's another artist that they said is kind of like this. Let's come check it out. So you can just have a place that you like to hang, and it's not dependent on like, oh, yeah, that artist was just okay to me. You still had a great time with your friends out at the place.
Yeah, I also wonder about, when you're talking about a bar or whatnot. I mean, that's not the only place where music comes.
Sure.
But I'm interested in the role of smaller venues in discovery, because there's some really great venues out there that are 100, 150 people. I've certainly performed at some of these, or even the 200 to 500, just before you get to the really large venues of like 500 plus, just because I think for the local music scene, you're generally not getting local musicians that are playing the big stadiums, right? We're not talking about 1,000 plus. You are really talking about the smaller venues. So what do you think the relationship is between us as local music consumers and how we can create an environment around this?
I mean, I think that goes to more what we were already talking about, finding the place that you like. I think one thing I can add is that with some of the smaller venues, you're talking about a lower cover. So it's easier to patronize those places more frequently. And here's another concept is an equal amount of you're going to support these artists, but make sure when you're there, support the establishment as well. So the cover oftentimes helps go pay the artist. That's great that you've done that to support them. And then if you just have water the whole time you're there, you haven't done anything to help support the venue bringing the people in. So just being cognizant as a consumer all the time, like, oh, yep, okay, I don't really drink heavily. Oh, I'll have that little appetizer and give me a Coke or give me some fruit juice or give me some non-alcoholic drink. But often those places are supported by their bar, selling alcohol, selling drinks, selling food, or whatever else they have. So just be cognizant, even if that's not what you're there for, just as much as, hey, I want to contribute to the success of this artist. I want to contribute to the success of this venue to keep providing us a space for the artists.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And with more and more venues disappearing, I know that the pandemic was really hard on a lot of venues. Yeah, I have a very similar set of thoughts, although there are also some parameters around there. Definitely the older I get, the more I'm like, man, I cannot make it to a 9 or 10 p.m. show. I just like physically cannot handle this. And so, definitely there are sacrifices that I've made to go see and support local artists where I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a nap and I'm going to be out late. And generally these are for my friends, people who I've known for a long time. But I know that that is also something that as a practice, I will probably want to do at some point in time. How do I support our local artists so that we do have excellent local artists coming from the local scene into the national spotlight? And I think if we don't have a local music scene, we're never going to have those people who are going to be able to launch into that national spotlight, because it is so hard for people to jump. You actually have to have those laps in the pool. And there are a lot of great musicians who are working on the local level. And if they can't make a living at it, or if they can't get the gigs because the venues don't exist, we end up in a lot of struggle. Like, we can't cultivate the environment that we want to be in as musicians if we don't be patrons of the same venues that we want to be able to perform in.
Right. Yeah, I think the summary of this whole thing, the moral of all of this, is just being a more conscientious consumer. Not thinking it just from your perspective of like, oh, there's this band I want to go see. There's this artist I want to go check out. Just remembering just what the whole process is. Again, like referring to what I was just saying, when I go, oh, cool, I want to go see them. That's kind of for me because I want to enjoy them. And then the next level is knowing, oh, but I'm not going to contact them because they're my friend so I can get in for free. What supports them is if I actually pay the cover, because that supports them really.
Yeah.
Yes, my physical presence there will be supporting. They will like that I showed up. As you said, as we get older, just being able to leave the house shows that I must like something about you.
Yeah.
It's harder and harder to leave the house as we get older. But then just, again, remembering, oh, I'm supporting them this way. And again, supporting the venue, whatever. Oh, the venue sells a venue t-shirt. I didn't really drink or eat a lot. I'll buy their t-shirt. I love this place and I want them to keep going. So just being cognizant, that one extra step of thinking about how you are behaving as a consumer.
I was thinking also, just as a little bit of a sidebar, there's an artist named Austin Kleon who I saw at a conference, and he was talking about the concept of a scenius. I think he eventually ended up writing a book about this, but he's talking about genius and how geniuses are made. And he's like, I don't think geniuses are actually made. I think that there are sceniuses that are made. And it's because there is a local scene that the geniuses are formed, because they have people that they are working with and who push them to next level. So he gave the example of Mozart. And he said Mozart was only Mozart because there was an existing music scene that appreciated music and existing sources of income, existing people who he was competing against for audiences. And so Austin's perspective on this was that you don't have these opportunities for brilliant artists to come into play unless all of us participate in the scene itself, if all of us support, if all of us participate in it. And so, yeah, you will have a lot of people who are maybe average or like maybe moderately interesting, but out of that is going to come someone who's going to blow everyone else out of the water. And if you don't have a scene for them to be able to be seen in that way, to be to perform or whatnot, that person is never going to be seen. That person is never going to launch. That person is never going to be the artist that they could be and realize their full potential. So he, I think, was trying to think through this entire concept of how do we create the environment for the next genius.
That's cool.
Yeah. So extrapolating that to music is, I think, just an interesting thought.
Yeah, really cool.
All right. Any last thoughts before you wrap up?
That's it. Find a local venue you like. Find an artist you like. Go patronize it as much as you can do in this crazy day and age.
Awesome. And so with that, we will see you all next week.
See you soon.
Oh, no, that's not the right button.
We sing harmony parts and others. They're so sing-songy.
Nicer car.
That's some LA living right
there. Yeah. I'm like, I live among tech bros and they don't even tell me that. So. Yeah.